Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and thank you for joining to this special episode of Neo4j Live. I'm really excited to have a little bit out of the ordinary episode today. It's not usually it's me talking to somebody else or maybe talking to two people, but today actually I have 4 guests and all of them are speaking at Nodes next week. So if you haven't heard, under which rock do you live, but Nodes is happening next week, 16th and 17th of November. So it's a 24 hours, almost 24 hours live stream event on all things Graph and Neo4j. So wherever you join, wherever you watch, you will have something live during your daytime. So no early hours or late, early hours or late days, late evenings. And yeah, please register for it. It's going to be a full event, full of interesting sessions. And if you want to know more what's going on and how Nodes is going to look like, I think today's session is sort of like a little teaser event. So we will speak about sessions. We will speak about Neo4j in general, and we will give as a panel a few insights into the event itself and into the people that speak at Neo4j Nodes next week. Yeah, and with that, I'd like to bring on stage my lovely guests. So without further ado, I'll bring them all in and maybe get rid of this, and then we have it all here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining. I'll do a short round of intros, obviously. So we have Xing Huang, bioinformatic research scientist at PGI Group. Xing will be speaking on the 16th of November, and his talk is Doctor.ai, a graph-based medical chatbot. It's in the advanced track. And if you are wondering, oh, I know this face, or I heard about this, yes, Xing has been a part of Neo4j Live before. He's been a guest. We talked about the Doctor.ai chatbot a little bit in a Neo4j Live a couple of months ago. So if you want to dive in some more there, you can totally do that. Next up is Owen Brierley. He has the title Game Design Researcher and PhD candidate in Computational Media Design at the University of Calgary. And he will be speaking on the 16th of November, so also the first day, with a talk called Towards Real-Time Knowledge Graphs for Non-Player Characters in Games. It's in the intermediate track. So it's a very cool session. I'm also looking very much forward to this. As a gamer myself, sounds like a cool talk. Next up is Estelle Scifo. Estelle is a data scientist and CTO of Smart Grid Communications Incorporated. So that's her title, and she will be speaking on the 17th of November. So that's the Thursday, more of like the EMEA / APAC time zone. Building of Neo4j Python OGM is her talk. It's in the advanced track. And then last but not least, Dekel Paz, senior security researcher at Zero Networks, also on the 17th in the intermediate track. And his session is called BlueHound, community-driven security-based on Neo4j and NeoDash. So that's the sessions. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. Hope you all had a good day, are doing fine. Yeah, thank you. Welcome to the stream, I guess.
Thank you for welcoming us.
Yeah, it's really cool being here. So thank you for having us.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for joining. So let's maybe start with a short round of introduction. I mean, I said who you are and what your titles are and what your session is going to is called, but that maybe is a little less of actual background. So I don't know. Maybe we start counterclockwise from starting with Estelle. Would you mind saying a few words about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure.
I guess, why graph? Maybe already a little.
yeah. Well, sure. It will come. So yeah. So I'm Estelle. From the start, I'm a physicist at the beginning of my career. I've a PhD in particle physics. I've been working at the on the CERN experiment on the Higgs boson and stuff like this. After that, I moved on, away from research and started working in industry in the data science field. So I've done a lot of stuff in different fields and mainly using Python. So Python is my main language, both for data science and for development, like web development and stuff like this. I discovered the Graphs and Neo4j a few years ago now, and it was kind of, the mind blowing, like, whoa, we can actually model things that way. We can run those kind of analysis on the graph structure, and I think that since then I've used them almost everywhere. So that actually led to a book that was released in 2019, I think. That is a bit out of date right now because there have been a lot of evolutions in the graph data science library, especially, and there is a kind of an update that is coming early next year. So that's keeping me quite busy.
I can imagine.
And yeah, other piece of news about myself is that I've joined actually GraphAware a few months ago. So working
So
almost exclusively with Neo4j and some analysis. So very nice projects coming, and maybe some more talks in the future.
Yeah, cool. Well, then, congratulations to the new role, and
Thank you.
again, thank you for joining. Yeah, let's continue around Dekel. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Dekel. I'm a security researcher. I've been in the IT and cybersecurity fields for the last 15 years. I've been kind of on both sides of the fence. So I've started my career on the more offensive side, doing simulated hacking, creating attack tool, things like that. Giving services to a lot of big name enterprise and things like that. Also be on the offensive side, so both working in startup companies trying to create, products to help companies, protect themselves, but also on enterprise companies, doing the actual defending myself. So been doing, a little bit of everything. My first encounter with Neo4j was actually from a project called BlueHound, which I think kind of brought the graph theory to the security field, and it's now like a staple for anyone doing simulated attacks or even real world attacks. The gist of it is that it lets you scan a network and then pretty easily tells you, if you start on computer A and you want to get, to target B, what is the way to go there? So, it tells you to jump around from computer to computer, taking this user, taking that user. And then, boom, you're at your target, you finished your project. What I wanted to do and why I created BlueHound was kind of bring this to the defensive teams. So under defensive side, if you look at the graph, you have maybe millions of paths and you don't know where to start and what's actually important to you as a defender. So the idea of the project was kind of help companies defend themselves, and it's all open source and free for everybody.
Very cool. Sounds very interesting. I mean, this is a huge field and a very, very exciting, very exciting project. So looking forward to hearing a little bit more about this maybe later on. Thank you for joining. Shall we move on next? I think I changed layout in the meantime, so I lost track, but I think Owen technically was next in my more or less random selection of go around. So
awesome, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be spending the morning with you. For me, it's the morning, and it is minus 23 Celsius in Calgary, Alberta right now, so it's a little chilly.
A little.
And my background, well, I'm actually I'm a weird mix of the arts and technology. For 15 years, I was a professional actor and director in theater. And in the middle 90s, I ended up discovering this crazy thing called the World Wide Web, brand new, crazy fad, and woke up one morning and discovered that I was a nerd, and started building my passion and my career in digital actors and working in the digital media space, eventually finding my way into games, in particular using game engines. One of the biggest projects I worked on was what's called a serious game, which was a training game for oil and gas workers, and we used an indie game engine from a company called Garage Games. It was in the early 2000s, and their game engine allowed us to do some really interesting things, and being able to allow the learner to play in a simulation of the work environment that they'd be working in. So fast forward a few years, and I found myself being invited to join the computational media design program here at the University of Calgary, and it was a delightful kind of I don't know how many of you know about Reese's peanut butter cups, but it's that wonderful mix of two great tastes that taste great together. It was a mix of the arts, which I had with my theater and drama background, and then the technology side in computer science. So I actually have in my PhD program, I have two supervisors who put me through my paces, and my work has been primarily in game design research, and looking at what I'm most fascinated by are the characters in background, the folks who just go about their daily lives, and I don't know if any of you are Alexander, you mentioned you're a gamer, so you might know the game Red Dead Redemption. And there's it's a massive open world game, and players are talking about going in and just watching the farmers go about their day, or the villagers going about their day, and just observing what they do, and kind of just enjoying the environment. And that's something that absolutely fascinates me. And at the same time, there is a limit to how far those stories can play out. And sometimes they will loop and repeat, or they will just cut off and end. And so the thing for me is I'm interested in, well, what is the full lifetime of a non-player character, and how can we help them learn and grow and adapt and create unique experiences, especially when we start talking about things like the metaverse. The metaverse is supposed to be populated by other real people, but nobody wants to be the background character, so we're going to need those believable non-player characters in the environment that are not repeating and not looping. And so what we've done is we've managed to build a connector that allows us to have a Neo4j instance connect directly to the Unreal game engine, and we can talk back and forth between the two. So I have a nickname for my Neo4j instance. I call it my Neo4j Cortex, and it's the place where I can put the non-player characters' memories and store those and work on potentially having dreams or reflections or predictions about what that character might do in the future. And then when they are in the game, when they're living their lives in their reality, they then can query their memories, and they can pull what they've learned in the past and allow it to influence what they do. So my experiment, the thing I'm working on in my PhD is a very humble thing. It's just simply getting non-player characters to go grocery shopping. It seems like a mundane kind of crazy thing, but it's actually an incredibly complex sequence of what I refer to as non-deterministic. So For me, non-determinism is a, I know it's a philosophical term, but for me, it's sort of that in between stochastic, which is fully random, and deterministic, which is fully scripted. We want something that is unpredictable, but at the same time, there's some kind of motivation or rationale behind why the choices are being made the way they're being made. But we don't want it to be continually repeated. And so what I do is I allow the non-player characters to learn about the grocery store as they go about shopping, and I use a very simple algorithm. Not simple. It's a big algorithm, but it's something that is used in machine learning, and it's very robust. I keep it very constrained so it doesn't impact the frame rate in the game, because that's something that's very, very valuable. It's something called Q learning. And the curse of dimensionality can make things immense. So what I do is I just keep it constrained to the shelves that you happen to be looking at. So you make your way to a particular part of the grocery store, and then you need to browse or shop, and you learn about what the items are on the grocery store. Then you select your item and you move on to your next item in your grocery list. This is very basic,
very interesting.
sort of
We
thing.
almost already I think we're diving into your talk already. So, but maybe before we do that, we have one more guest to introduce.
Absolutely. I'll stop
there. Xing, last but not least, for sure, can you say a few words about yourself?
Yes. So I am a biologist. So I used Neo4j since 2019. So for 2019, and primarily in biology. So at the beginning, I used it to organize some genomes and transcriptomes. And then later, I discovered, wow, it is way more than that. And at the end of 2019, I had the opportunity to take part in the datathon in Singapore with 4 Neo4j engineers. And there we had the idea to use Neo4j as our backend for a medical chatbot. So the idea is to collect all the patients' patient data and also the medical data into a Neo4j database. And then at the front end, we will use like an natural language understanding engine. So then the user can speak to the chatbot, while then the chatbot can translate the English into Cypher. So this chatbot will make the knowledge graph accessible to the mass majority who could not program or sometimes could not even read or write. So we think this way we can democratize this technology to more people, not only in the medicine domain, but also logistic, HR, forestry, and so on. So yeah, I heard that we have experts tonight in 4 different domains, and I'm very excited to listen to all of their talks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, we have indeed a pretty wide spectrum today. So it's great to have you all. Thank you again for joining and for participating here. If you're watching this live in any of the outlets we are streaming to now, this is also an invitation to you. If you have any questions to any of the guests in the panel tonight, please type it in chat. I'll have a look for your questions or see where it fits in, and we can discuss a few points from the audience, obviously. So that's always an open path. And I think Owen and Xing, you kind of alluded a little bit to what your talks are going to be about. Maybe Estelle, if you could say a few words, what building a Neo4j Python OGM. What is that? Exactly, what is that? What can people expect?
Yeah, well, in short, it started from a project where I had quite a complex graph model, and when I started building the API to expose those data, I ended up with so many queries, and so the response time was unmanageable, like a few seconds, and that was not possible. So I started investigating how we could reduce this response time, and especially using the capability of Neo4j to return, or Cypher to return, connected nodes. When you're querying the database, you can make multiple hopes and return a lot of all of the data you're crossing along the path. And basically, how to use that feature of Cypher to just improve my response time. And so I ended up exploring the different options. So since this is the language I'm more comfortable with, and was also only the prototyping phase, I was using Python for that. So I explored the different options, like Neo model, for instance, that's doing stuff like this. But at least at that time, Neo model was not able to do this, meaning that if I start from a node and I want to return maybe two hopes, nodes that are two hopes away, that was not possible. So I started investigating, and in the end, I kind of come up with the idea of building my own object graph mapper. So defining object in Python and being able to query Neo4j without writing Cypher, which is actually abstracted behind New model is doing actually, or Django for those who are familiar with Python in general. So yeah, I started building that project, and I wanted to share that experience because it's super interesting. Thanks to Cypher and Cypher map projection, for instance, you can very easily map your results to Python in that case, but could be also another language. So this talk, I promise to focus on Cypher and Neo4j, not giving too much detail about the Python magic and everything that's going on behind the scene. But yeah.
I guess that's also interesting, right? I mean, you connect in two technologies there, and you make it work. So
Yeah.
it's also the approach there to educate how it's done, what were you struggling with, maybe what were difficulties to overcome, but also what is the outcome in the end? What did you achieve?
Sure. It will be. Anyway, the code will be public at some point. So you will be able
Cool.
to check.
Okay. Yeah, then that's even better than for people to try and relive almost like your experience and to learn from that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. And then I think Dekel, maybe you can also say a few words about your session. So BlueHound, what's I mean, you talked a little bit about what you're doing with BlueHound, but maybe showcase a bit what you mean with community-driven security based, and maybe what's NeoDash.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned previously, there was a project called BlueHound that actually brought Neo4j to the security community. It's an open source project that is widely used. And I really wanted to have all of that data, but then have an easy way to visualize it and see all of the information, and share the queries that I create with people. So we kind of looked around and we found NeoDash, which is an awesome open source project by Neo4j. It was created by Niels de Jong. And we looked at it and we say, hey, that's perfect. That's really close to what we want to do. So we forked that project, and that's the beginning of BlueHound. The idea is to take that and make it more suitable for our needs. So first thing I did was wrap it around with Electron, which lets you just create an app from a web application, because I really want to have the ability to anybody use this application, so you don't have to have like a Node.js server and all of these dependencies and things like that. Like, I want somebody to just download an executable, just run it, and have it running without any prior knowledge. just need to install Neo4j beforehand. And then we have a lot of like queries already built in. So again, if you have no idea what Neo4j is, you've never seen a graph in your life, just run it. You get a lot of really cool information about, what is security issues that I really need to deal with today, because they combine a lot of different things. It could be network information, it could be permission information, it could be vulnerability information. So now, again, if we go back to the notion of, defenders, usually thinking in lists, and there's actually a famous quote by John Lampert, defenders thinks in lists, attackers think in graphs. As long as this is true, attackers win. So what does that mean? If we think about like a firewall, basically it's a list that tells you, okay, this connection, this IP, this port, block it or allow it. Or if we think about, we have patches that we need to install. So we have 5,000 patches. These are the hosts that we need to, fix today. But the attacker doesn't care about that. He cares about, something that's very similar to a graph. I need one host with a problem and one user with a problem and one computer and so on and so forth. So a whole way of visualizing it should be more graph-based instead of list-based. That's where, again, BlueHound comes in. So we have, now that it's an Electron app, we can also do like data collection, have everything, with the click of a button. You collect all of the data that you need, you load it into the Neo4j. You already have built-in graphs, and it's community-based because thanks to NeoDash, you can export that dashboard that you created with all of the, with all of those queries and everything that you have, and pass it on to other people in the community. And the attacking side was always really based on community. Like there's a lot of free tutorials online. There's a lot of conferences that really focus on the attacker side. But the defensive side has always been kind of neglected, and we want to really see, that community aspect of it, taking the center stage. So that's the basic idea.
Very interesting. I mean, when you look at a dashboard, I envision, you see probably a little bit of text, and you see a couple of charts with diagrams and all of that. But and then probably at some point maybe a graph visualization to help out, maybe find some like you said, attackers think in graphs and defenders think in lists. So less list heavy, more on the visual side. What is the dashboard is, I don't know, is it flexible or no? But if you think of what is the maybe one or two of the key visual aspects of the dashboard, where you say, okay, this is very important for BlueHound, because when our users see these parts of the dashboard, they understand more and they gain insights. What would you say is a key advantage there?
I think one of the things that's really convenient about NeoDash is that kind of have both options. You have graphs, but you also have like table views, and you have the classic charts and things like that. Actually, X also added one of just a gauge chart, so it's like this, 0 to 100% that I added to BlueHound. I later also added it back to the NeoDash code. So it's really flexible. It really allows you to see the data in different ways. And again, going back to the community side, it doesn't have to be the community on the internet. It can be inside your own company. I mean, if you look at like security and IT teams in big companies, IT department could be thousands of teams. So if you want to share findings that you have, maybe giving them graphs is not as useful, because that's more useful for exploring the data and finding the issues. But if you then can take the queries that you created and then just show it in different ways. So like a table view or something that's more suitable for management with like graphs, then it really lets you take those issues that you find and get them fixed, because you kind of need both views, to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very interesting or very good point. Oftentimes it's not only a graph you get that gives you insights, but the graph maybe drives a table or a chart in the end, but through the connectedness of the data that the graph leverages, you get a more insightful representation as a table or as a chart, which then without that graph insight, it would just be a blob of data that doesn't give you anything.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Maybe continue the rounds. Xixing, Doctor.ai. So I mean, I know it a little bit. We talked a little bit about it before, but and you hinted, summarized it earlier quickly. But is it like a chatbot for patients?
Yes, it is one of the implementation. So, but it's more general. It can be a framework. So depends on what you put inside the database. So it can be like if you have a HR department, you can have personal files. You can put them inside. It's basically just an example of how you can interact with a Neo4j with natural language. So in our previous version, we used the AWS Lex, but now we use the GPT-3, which requires fewer code and much easier to maintain. So it is a chatbot, yes. However, the GPT-3 does more than that now. So it can also understand German, Chinese, some Japanese, and it also will extract relationships from the medical literatures. So we can, in turn, enrich the database with new papers. So we will put the papers through a pipeline, like a NLP pipeline that consists of several steps. But the main part is the GPT-3, which will extract the subject, object, and the verb, so then we can put them back inside the Neo4j. So we can make like a very dynamic database. So it will keep evolving, not only like a snapshot of a past, but also like as long as you fit them with your new paper information, and the knowledge will grow. So, and also the GPT-3 will also serve as like a gatekeeper. So then we can program all kinds of questions. For example, something even maybe more not related to medicine. For example, if a patient will like to ask for appointment and something, that the GPT-3 in the future version will also handle those requests. So it is like is one of the dream that Eric Topol has written in his book. So the deep medicine. So not only that we have like a deep learning in the medicine, but also like deep sympathy, so empathy, so that the system will become like more human, so that the patient will have more trust in this patient-doctor relationships. But also we can use the same system for other things, as I said. And because the medicine part, it is one of the most heavily invested, but however, it is also have a lot of medical waste. So in this system, we want to show how this system can improve the efficiency. So that is why we choose the doctor part here, and not HR, but it is very easy to modify the whole database into something else. So everybody can use it, and also the code is also freely available in GitHub.
Okay, so it's not only a doctor-patient relationship, but also like a doctor wider, PubMed, wider world of knowledge in the life sciences world. A relationship, so to say, okay, I use this as a knowledge graph or as a research backend where I can say, okay, I need information on topic X, and then I'll
exactly. Because as Estelle said, one of the difficulty in dealing with or doing Cypher or Neo4j is the Cypher language. So not everybody knows how to program Cypher at the beginning. So what if we just encapsulate the Cypher with natural language? So we program the Cypher already, so in form of GPT-3. So what if we already program the most common patterns already in natural language cipher, and so on pairs? So then the user do not have to write a single sentence of Cypher or even Python, because it is already be processed by GPT-3, which will translate the question live into Cypher. So that is something that why most people will at the beginning, oh, I cannot do programming. How can I interact with such a huge database or a knowledge graph? But now you don't even need to know what is a knowledge graph, because the back end is encapsulated in like a chatbot. So you don't even need to know what is behind it. The natural language understanding part handled by GPT-3 is very efficient, but in the current form, it is not a general chatbot. So you cannot ask him about the weather or what is the meaning of life. You can only ask him, very specific question about medicine. So something that the knowledge graph can answer. And sometimes also the question has to be fall into some of the forms, the patterns. But that is currently the prototype. So we intend to improve it further so that the language flow will be more natural. So it can understand maybe pronouns and also daytime and so on. But the prototype is fully functional, so that it may be like a stepping stone for the next project or any inspiration for future developments.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Super. Sounds very interesting. Looking forward to that session.
Thank you.
And to go around again, Owen. You already you were already going in about NPC characters going shopping and picking the right aisles and I guess going for the next next product I want to buy. I think you even have your screen here. Do you want to share a few things or?
Oh, sure. I'm happy to. And something to bear in mind is, while this is a very specific example of an implementation of the system, we can start to think about non-player characters as non-human. So we can also see non-player characters as other types of creatures or beings, and what are their lifetimes and their lives. So anyways, we'll focus on the grocery store for now. This is actually an Unreal Engine environment, and it's a fully stocked grocery store that we can navigate and browse through. This is still in the edit mode. And you'll notice here I have in my output, I'm not sure if you can read it, but there are queries that are being sent to Neo4j and all sorts of things. So what I'll do is I'll just first off share with you, let's look at the simulation itself. And so this is my default character. But what I want you to pay attention to is that little cube in the background there that is our spawn point for a shopper. And that shopper is about to go on a shopping trip. And I'm just going to follow that shopper as they move through the store. And eventually they make their way over to the bakery section. And once they get to the bakery section, they again are going to look at their grocery list and do some thinking and decide where they want to go in the grocery store. And then once they find the item that they're looking for, they send the result of their learning off to the Neo4j database, and then they wander over to the checkout, at which point they will disappear, and that'll be the end of that. So what's going on the back end? Well, in Neo4j, I've got this set of characters that have information about them that I'm randomly generating actually from an e-commerce test website. I pull in a bunch of customer data, and then I can build a shopping list out of that data for the customer, and then I add items to each of to the shopping list, and the shopping list will potentially be used once, and then as that character learns something, when they found a particular item, it will get stored in what's called a Q table. And this is part of the Q learning algorithm. It's a form of reinforcement learning in AI. And it's, like I say, it's a very constrained, very small little algorithm that just, I didn't want to get too complex with the number of items it had to think about. But essentially, I've got cakes, donuts, buns, breads, and bagels are away, and it's looking for one particular item out of that list. And it stores its success or failure rates in terms of being able to find that item based on where they're currently standing. So they move to, and eventually what I do is I use a mix of training and action. So this whole notion of moving from one item to another exhibits a bit of browsing behavior or shopping behavior. Now with Q learning, what I can do is I can increase or decrease the patience level using a learning factor that says, well, I'm going to go directly to the first item that I think of or see, or I'm going to keep looking around until I find the exact right item that I'm looking for. And what that gives me is a variety of behaviors with one single value in a variable. And that becomes very powerful, because in a game engine, in a simulation, you need to keep your algorithms as small and tight as possible. And so, being able to use something like a single variable that allows me to create a range of behaviors in my characters is a really wonderful thing. Back in the environment. Oh, sorry.
No, no. Let's maybe.
One last little thing I just want to demonstrate. Sort of it's a very simple interface that allows me to generate a shopper. I can create a brand new shopper. Send that to the database. Then I can take that new shopper, and there's Clint is my new shopper, all of the details, and we'll create a shopping list for that shopper of bread. Let's get some toothpaste and dog food, right? Of course, that's a great shopping list right there. So we create that shopping list, and it immediately gets updated in our Neo4j environment. And let's see if we can find Mr. There's Clint right there. That's our new shopper that just got added. There's the shopping list, and there are the items that we created. Now, once we take Clint shopping, he will add his learning about the various items and where he found them. And then in the future, if he needs to look for a similar item in the future, we can say, well, have you looked for this item before? Do you know where it is? Maybe you have a memory of that. Let's go there again. Yeah. So again, very, very basic kind of example of the kinds of behaviors, but you can potentially, hopefully, you can imagine all of the possibilities.
I mean that just it will just lead to somewhat more natural behavior, and like you said in the beginning, you have the non-player characters can't play the first front stage role, so they have to be somewhat in the back, but they have to be somewhat believable, because all of the whole world is falling apart if you see something doing 5 steps forward, 3 steps left, 5 steps backward, 3 steps right, and it's like going in a circle all day long. So it's like, okay, sure. I mean, you're not important. I know the main character is who I'm playing, but if everybody else just goes around in circles and does stupid things, it's like I feel like, what am I supposed to do here? But if they then go about their ways and find a reasonable, relatively believable way of doing what they're supposed to do, or at least make me believe that this is an actual world I'm moving about, That's very.
And we can track any data out of the simulation. We can pass anything. It's all built in. We created the plugin using C++. The implementation in the editor is using something called Blueprints, which is a I'll just show you really quickly here, a very visual way of editing your code. You can see this is just simply an initialization to the online database. Then we go and we query our shoppers. We pass our Cypher query in, and then we can take the first shopper that we want, and we can build out our character traits by pulling the various properties out of the nodes and assigning them to variables within our actors or characters inside. So this becomes a very kind of designer-friendly way of building queries and building logic and interaction between what we're creating in our game engine and what we're doing on the Neo4j side.
Cool. Very, very, very exciting. So I think we have sort of a good overview of what you are going to be speaking about at Notes next week. And I'd like to spend the remainder of this session for a little panel with all of you together. So maybe discuss a few things or highlight a few points. And my opening question, and maybe start with Estelle, because you are right in the middle now, is what was your, when you started with to discover Neo4j or discover graphs, what was your first touch points, and how did you decide, okay, this is actually interesting and I wanna dive in some more here?
Actually, I asked myself this question not so far ago. How did I first discover Neo4j? I really don't remember, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know how the first time I heard about it. I think that maybe on Twitter, a tweet by chance that appeared on my feed or something like this. But then, yeah, I think I just, read maybe the first getting started tutorial and say, okay, that's great. So I installed the Neo4j desktop, I think, and play with the first guides with the movie dataset. And then usually when I try and learn something new, a new technology or something, I try and imagine a use case for me, or a small project I can work on my own and try and build something out of it. And yeah, for Neo4j, I think it was something like some bookstore or something like this that I just play a bit around. Mainly as a graph database, because when I started, the graph data science was not such a thing that it is today, such impressive, but as a graph, as a database mainly. And yeah, I think that's how it started.
But it went pretty fast, pretty deep for you. I think you are a very active member. You post often. You write showcases and examples like your OGM talk now for Notes next week. But other things you learned, but then you are sharing your knowledge.
I learn a lot from the community, from blog posts, from YouTube videos, and yeah, at some point it's natural for me to try and share also what I learned, and if it's useful to one or two people, it's great. And if not, I've learned something, because I try to, and when you write something, you try to wrap your mind, and you always understand stuff when you write in the end, even if the code is already written, even the project is finished. But the fact that you write stuff down, organize your thought, and you're always understanding something.
Yeah. Seeing
Cixin
you're
agrees.
nodding. Yeah.
Yes, I read many of Estelle's her posts actually on Medium.
Okay. Well,
and I am very impressed by her work on the geospatial package, actually, so that you can
yeah.
show all the points in a map. I use it actually in one more of my work, and yeah, so her name is a big name for me, actually.
Cool. I have actually, unfortunately, no time to maintain this and add more stuff. But yeah, I hope I will have time or find someone who is willing to take over the project. I would be really happy about that.
Yeah. How did you come to geospatial world? I mean, this.
Yeah, that's part of my past experience. I used to work on a real estate estimation engine where the location is really crucial in that case. So having a tool to deal with the geospatial data. So at that time, I was using Postgres and PostGIS and all the tools in the geospatial environment, like QGIS for visualization and stuff like that. And that was when I started using Neo4j, that was kind of missing the visualization part, because there was already support for geospatial data within Neo4j. There was the spatial plugin also to perform some GIS queries, but not so many things for visualization, which was, logically oriented towards graph visualization, which we can understand.
Yeah. Cool. Dekel, what was your, graph beginner moment, maybe?
Yeah. So as I come for the security research, and I first viewed security information on the graph, it was like pretty eye-opening because you have all of this information, and I wanted to start querying it myself because I just don't want the built-in things I already had. Want to create things here, and then I just started just random blog posts online on my beginner Cypher queries, and I found that it's not as hard as you think. I mean, even though it's on the surface looks really different, to anything you ever used before. It's and Cypher is a little bit like kind of like writing English. It's the same thing I kind of like about Python, where you basically almost write English if you're if you define all of your variables and functions in a good way, then it's always almost like writing English. So it's the same here. It's like you say, oh, I have a node. I want to find a path from a node that has some connection to another node, and if you defined everything well, then it's really easy to do it. And then you get like all of these really hard questions that it's really hard to be answered in like regular, SQL or NoSQL databases. It's really easy to just ask it in a graph database. Yeah, that was, I guess, the big thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's what many people have. I mean, for me, definitely was one of the reasons. I mean, you look at the data, you understand it right away. I mean, more or less right away, without having to you don't need an expert that explains to you what you see. I mean, you obviously need an expert to understand exactly what's going on, but in general, the big picture, oh, this is connected to this and this is connected to that, and that means this and that. So this is very, very, very easy and very quickly everybody can grasp, and that's a huge difference versus in other things you have to crawl through tables and other structures. Even charts sometimes can be very complicated, and you look at it and you think, oh, I have no idea what's going on here. So first step can be easy. It gets complicated, obviously, so I'm not oversimplifying it, and you all probably know how complicated you can write your Cypher queries and your graphs can become, but in the initial first step can be somewhat easy.
Yeah, it's also pretty useful. As I come for the security field, a lot of times I want to find clusters. Like clusters for me are usually where big issues are found, and sometimes it's just enough to scroll out a little bit and see the graph that you created, from a top view, and then you can just see, okay, here is a cluster. Here's the point that a lot of different nodes lead to, and usually that's where my problem will be. So that's half of the work for me already.
Yeah, it's cool. There's an interesting question for a comment from Entropy Monkey on the chat, and I'll take it, and then maybe we can go around and have your thoughts on it. So he says, I wish Cypher could gain more traction. I find it to be a beautiful language, very intuitive, but it seems many folks are stuck on SQL or GraphQL semantics or RDF, I guess maybe he means. So I don't know, Owen, what do you think is for you, what you do is, did it mean, did you have to have lots of convincing to do to get started with Cypher and Neo4j, or did it come sort of, wasn't too hard of a hurdle in terms of adoption and then starting out with the usage?
Thank you. It's a great question. I'm old, so I come from the early days of flat files and relational databases, and eventually found XML databases, and it was a friend of mine who recommended Neo4j, and one of the things that just resonated like a bell for me was the power of relationships between nodes, and also the fact that we could add nuances to the relationships. So it wasn't just a relationship, ta-da, but there were qualities that we could put into those relationships. And so as a humanities person, as an actor, I immediately thought, oh great, I can add all of these cool, interesting ways of connecting and not just a connection. And as well, it just the game engines and 3D environments are graphs. They're manifolds. Everything is a graph. And so when I hear Neo4j folks say everything is a graph, I say, yes, I agree. And and so it just became a real natural fit when working with the simulation environment and all of its behaviors and all of its actions and all of its stuff going on, transferring that over into Neo4j. I also see data in 3D and I see it in time. I don't tend to think in tables. I can barely remember a list of 10 items. That's just really hard unless I work on memorizing it. But if I visualize something and I can see it in space, then it has a shape, it has a constellation and a pattern that resonates for me and sticks with me. So
yeah, Xixing nodding again.
Yes, actually, I have thought about this table versus graph question, and in fact, my attempt was to bring them together. So in one of our projects is that we use the Google Sheets as our backend and the single source of truth, so we can use SQL to query it. But on the other hand, we will export part of the data to the graph, so we can do graph stuff. So this system has some advantages. So for example, I can control what part of the data goes to the graph, because sometimes if we load too much data onto Neo4j, the performance will degrade. And actually this model operandi is also used by AstraZeneca. So they have a mother node of the data in Parquet, and then they use Neo4j as their visualizing tool. So in fact, you don't need to choose one or another. You can have them both. And you just need to have a bridge between the table and the graph. So you can convert the data from your SQL database into a graph. Because also the table has one big advantage. It is the data is easier to edit. So if I have a table in front of me, I can just click on the cells and then I can edit the data. But it's very hard to do that in Neo4j. Yeah, even though you have a plugin, but sometimes it's very hard also to export the data back into a CSV form. So then I can migrate the data. But if I have the table in the first place, migration, it won't be a big issue. So currently I'm thinking maybe for some serious and big project, we can have both systems. So one is like a traditional table form, while the Neo4j is for data visualization or graph algorithms. So even maybe graph deep learnings. So in this case, we can have the best of both worlds. So we don't need to choose actually, but we need to master both SQL and Cypher in this case. But I think there is one very extendable way of doing data science in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a space for each solution, I think. So depending on what you do and depending on what your strategy or your plan with the tools are you using, depending on that, pick the right solution and the right technology. And there is, I think, a good reason why many use Neo4j alongside table-based systems. Others decide for certain systems to get rid of the table structures and move into Neo4j. And for other systems, it just doesn't make sense to use Neo4j. I mean, that's also true. So you have to pick what the project will look like and what you want to achieve with it, and then pick the right technology for it. Yeah, I mean that I think that brings us almost to an end. I would like to give everybody obviously a final few words. Thank you for joining today. Definitely was I had a good time. I think it was very interesting to see, get a little glimpse of what you're going to present next week. So I'm looking forward to all your sessions and the other over 100 sessions we're going to have over 2 days at Nodes next week. So if you have not registered, please do so. But yeah, I mean that's what I had to say. But maybe let's go around. Dekel, maybe do you want to go first? Parting words from you.
Yeah. Just to comment on the last thing, I think, it's always important to find the right tool for the job. It's like I wouldn't use assembly or C++ to write a script to load data into Neo4j, and I wouldn't use Python maybe if I want like a really high performance thing. So Neo4j is really good for answering questions that are really hard to do in other technologies, and that's what's, I think, special about it. And just last word. Thank you for having me. It was really cool. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm on Twitter at Dekel_Paz or on LinkedIn. As I said, BlueHound is free and open source. You should use it. And if you're not into security, use NeoDash because it's really awesome. That's it. And I'll see you next week on Nodes.
Cool. Thank you. Xixing?
So also I'm thanking that Alex of having me and listen to all this nice introduction teaser that you will give in the Nodes 22. I myself am a big fan of new technology, and Neo4j as the leader in the graph space is of course have caught my attention long time ago, and I use it now nearly for every of my projects. So I think how can I use Neo4j in this project, in my professional low life, and also in my hobby projects. So I think that yes, the technology is there, and many of the especially in the deep learning. So the buzzword is now GCN. So because we want to use this in many of our projects, so that is also one of the reasons that I want to dig deeper into Neo4j, and also at the on the other side of the spectrum is the NLP. So how can we use NLP to interact with Neo4j, or how to use Neo4j as a backend to store all the NLP procession data is also another focus of mine. So yeah, I myself is also a student to such a big project. So in Nodes, I'm lucky enough to give one session, but on the other hand, I will listen to many excellent talks. So I'm very happy to be there, and I have also a good time in here in this roundtable.
Cool.
And I hope you also enjoy this event as much as I do. So thank you, Alex.
Absolutely. Thank you, Xixing. Thank you for taking part today. Estelle?
Yeah, thank you. I should just say that I am super excited about the introduction we had today, and I hope I will be able to attend the talks we heard about. They are super interesting. I just want to mention that if you're not yet convinced that nodes will be interesting, my colleagues at GraphAware are also presenting some very interesting stuff about how to build knowledge graph using NLP or using clustering technique, or another graph analysis using some temporal data, and see how the graph evolves with time. So that's talks not to be missed. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Estelle. And then, last but not least, Owen.
Thanks. I've taken a lot of time already, so thank you for giving me the space to share. I think my final comment might be related to the fact that we're just scratching the surface on this stuff. It's I have the privilege of being a weird outlier who uses Neo4j in unintended, unexpected ways, hopefully, and it has been an excellent tool for me as a game design researcher to work with. So I'm always excited to see what innovations come next, especially in the graph data science side of things, and looking at how we can take the real-time environment and the offline or the cloud-based environment and utilize the powers of each. So looking forward to next week. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Owen. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I had a great time. I think it was great to give a little insight in a little scratch on the surface, like you just said, on what's to expect, what's to come in your talks next week. So tune in. It's going to be a fun 24 hours for some, and at least a good day for hopefully many people to join. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another panel actually on Thursday with a couple of colleagues from Neo4j, where we go around the actual product announcement. So Bloom database, Aura, graph data science. So we do a little roundtable on that on Thursday. And tomorrow I start a new series with my colleague Will Lyon on his full stack GraphQL book. So if you're into GraphQL, tune into that. That's starting tomorrow. And yeah, with that, thank you all again. Thank you, Estelle, Xixing, Dekel, and Owen for taking the time today and for presenting, and everybody else for watching. And I wish you a good rest of your day and see you soon. Bye.